I'm not sure if I'm living a representative college football existence, but to me, it feels like we're in the age of wide receivers. Philly just won a Super Bowl on the back of two great receivers. Wide receiver U and Columbus just marched their way through an expanded college football playoff, and teams who aren't traditional powerhouses have risen and fallen as great receivers come on and off their rosters. Names like Travis Hunter, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jeremiah Johnson have captured the American imagination in a way that feels like is rather rare for that position. From an FSU perspective, I've watched and covered Mike Norvell's offenses rise and fall on their own with their receivers. When they first got here and in this past season, they fielded two of the worst receiving rooms in the history of Florida State football, and the results themselves have suffered. When there is no outlet, when teams can load up the box, there are no answers. When FSU brought in Johnny Wilson and followed it up with Keon Coleman, their offensive production went through the roof. The common narrative about the turnaround is that Jordan Travis magically learned how to throw the football and went from basically unusable as a quarterback to one of the best quarterbacks in college football. What if the truth is less about his throwing and more about who he was throwing to? I was saying it in 2021, and I'm going to repeat it here. Jordan Travis always had what it took to be successful in college, but the receivers around him didn't. What I just said is basically heresy in the FSU landscape, but it seems to me that just one stud may make a huge difference to any college football team. There was talent in the receiving room last season, believe it or not, but there was no true number one. It seems to me that if you want to put up points in modern football, you need that one guy. All of this leads me to a natural question. Am I crazy? The answer to that is probably, but the second question is, given equal talent, is a team better off with one stud receiver or a committee of equally capable guys? Like always, a perfect answer to this question is basically impossible. Football is a low sample size game with tons of noise, but I wouldn't be a part-time FSU football analyst if I didn't do my best to try to get to the bottom of it. So I had to decide how I was going to measure this question. The first part was creating some metric that could separate teams who had a true number one receiver from those who don't. I took the easy way out with this and basically just leaned on standard deviation. Standard deviation gives a larger value to a set with a wider variance. So in theory, a team with a high standard deviation would have one or two guys that far outpace the output of all of the other receivers. I put all of the receivers' yards totals for the season in a single spreadsheet, organized the receivers by team, and found the standard deviation of each team. I know this isn't perfect, but give me a second. Now, I could just plot that data against something like F+, which gives an opponent-adjusted offensive efficiency metric, but I feel that might be unfair. A team who's outpacing their expected output based on recruiting would get buried by that. So I wanted to control for differing talent levels. Basically, if I adjust for teams that put resources into one top receiver, do they do better than teams that spread those same resources around? To do this, I found the difference between F+ offensive rating and the 247 talent composite. Again, I know this isn't perfect, but hold on for a second. Let me get to my point. Without further delay, this is the graph that I got. There's a lot going on here, but I want to point you to two things. First, there's a positive trend line. In essence, there's a positive correlation last season between teams with higher standard deviation between receivers, those are the teams here on the right of the chart, and how they performed relative to their talent, which is shown as you go higher on the chart. The second thing is look at FSU here in the bottom left. Them and Oklahoma are hanging out in what I like to call the sad part of the graph. Teams who underperformed offensively, who also didn't have any standout receivers. So there seems to be something here. The question is, why? One great receiver offers many potential benefits to a team. Imagine a team is sending a man blitz. It's invaluable for the quarterback to know he will have the guy beat his defender one-on-one without having to see him open when defensive tackles are breathing down his neck. but it can also help with zone. Let's go to the original zone beating formation, trips. Trips stresses defenses in multiple ways. One of those ways is through the use of a true number 1 on the backside. This forces defense's hand. Do they have their corner go mano a mano with Jeremiah Smith, or do they dedicate a second defender to him? This bold strategy, essentially bracketing one receiver, leaves either one-on-ones on the other side of the field or creates a situation where the defense no longer has enough men to adequately defend the run. This can be attacked in various ways. This leaves backs one-on-one with linebackers in space, or you can create tons of pick opportunities front side with bunch formations. Essentially, a single great receiver can force a defense to play with one hand behind their backs. Okay, now the part you've all been waiting for. This isn't the best study. Standard deviation might not be the best way to isolate this idea. It might just kind of be selecting for teams with more passing yards in general, as that by itself would likely to create a higher deviation. The second major issue is that I just have the talent composite for entire teams, not isolated just for the offense. So in theory, a team could have dominated the recruiting trail defensively, which inflated their talent composite, and this metric is making them look worse, underperforming as an offense as they really were. However, I have two defenses to these points. One is that there will never be clean numbers in football. It's too low sample size, and there's frankly just way too much going on. Two is that I don't really care. The idea is intuitive to me, and it was just an excuse for you to hear me talk about trips formations for a minute. Plus, it leads me pretty smoothly into my next topic. This is an FSU channel after all. FSU got some legitimate wide receiver talent in the portal this offseason. Micah Pittman and Johnny Wilson were a huge part of FSU's jump from the 60th best offense in 2021 to the 14th best offense in 2022. If I'm honest, there's probably more upside in the duo of Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson. There aren't a ton of reasons to be optimistic about FSU off of a 2-win season, but if there is one, it's right here. Thanks for watching. I know there's no film in this one, but I decided to try something a little bit different as we keep running into some copyright issues with the videos with film. This actually came out early on the Knowles 247 message board. There's a 50% off code that you can see in the description below if you want to join me, Coach AB, and Trey further this conversation in a really good message board. I'll see you over there. Thanks.